Hi everybody, welcome back to the Year of Stones and Crystals for the month of April. Our stone and crystal for the month of April is Crystal Quartz, and we would like to extend a friendly thank you and our gratitude to the Friends of the Library, the Lawrenceburg Public Library, and certainly you for sponsoring and expressing interest in our take-home kits and our YouTube videos. So the traditional birthstone of April is the diamond, and we talked about last month when we did aquamarine for March how as much as we love you, we couldn't send everybody home with a diamond for the month of April. So I chose a close second in appearance and look, and that would be the Crystal Quartz stone and crystal. So clear quartz or crystal quartz, it's oftentimes interchangeable. And the same quartz as rose quartz and amethyst and smoky, but this is a crystal clear translucent glass-like quartz. And it is a staple to any stone and crystal collection. So generally it's one that almost everybody starts with, sort of in the same realm as an amethyst. So any rock hound or stone collector or crystal collection should have at least one little piece of crystal quartz. And we're going to talk about the reasons why in the world of crystals and stones and collecting that crystal quartz is a staple to your collection. So first, quartz in general is an abundant mineral. It's the second most abundant mineral on the planet, the first being feldspar. And it's found all over the world in varying hues. And that goes back to where we spoke about we have different forms or colors or shades of quartz, such as rose quartz or smoky quartz or even aqua aura quartz. And then remember how amethyst is a family of quartz, and it's a crystal quartz that's shaded that beautiful purple hue by iron and other minerals in the soil and the elements around it. So one nice thing about the fact that quartz is so abundant and found all over and easy to mine and find is it's a nice affordable stone to have too. So you'll see in this month's kit you get a naturally formed point and a tumbled and polished piece of crystal quartz from like a mass. So it's also a really nice beginning crystal and stone too, but for a price point, just to be practical. It's abundant, easy to find and mine, so therefore it makes it a really affordable choice to enjoy and add to your collection, jewelry make, or just kind of introduce yourself to the concept or the idea of stone and crystal collecting. So it also comes in many different forms or shapes. So quartz can come in something as complex and simple and geometrical as a little point or a cluster. And then it can also come as kind of rough and crude as a big mass or chunk, for lack of a better term. And that's where your little pieces of tumbled and polished would come. They'd be like chipped off of masses. Then it can also come in grains, just like we would think of a grain of salt. Lots of times quartz grains form and they're embedded in other stones and crystals, such as like garnet or feldspar or granite, like good gravel. When you get a load of gravel, you can walk through and see little grains or flecks of quartz crystal embedded into other stones. Prisms, so you think of like a naturally formed prism or like a cluster, and oftentimes those have like prismatic rainbows and light captured in them, and that's kind of where the idea of sun catchers and prisms and chandeliers and rainbow makers came from, was the naturally occurring prism and rainbow making of forms of raw quartz crystal. And then they can even be in the forms of threads. And I've seen this embedded into like a piece of raw pyrite, where it is just a tiny, thin little thread-like piece of crystal quartz kind of woven in and out and intricately inside embedded into other pieces of stones and crystals. So again, even though it's common, its commonality varies in certainly color, hues, and forms, and then very much in shapes and the way that it's mined and how you find it naturally in the earth. So again, your take home has a tumbled and polished crystal, and this likely came from a mass and was chunked off and then tumbled and polished over a pretty long period of time, probably several weeks, to turn it into this nice, smooth, kind of similar marble-like shape. And then also you have a nice little crystal point, and this would have been a naturally formed point that probably just shot off of a rock or maybe came off of a larger crystal cluster, we call them, or a druzy. And so you can see just within the varying shapes of quartz, there are a lot of different choices in the sizes, the looks, the shapes, and the I guess basically the form of crystal quartz that you would like or that is available through naturally formed points and formations. And again, the quartz that we're talking about for the month of April, because we're going to kind of cheat and make it our pretend diamond, is a clear glass-like translucent, so that means you'd be able to look right through it as you would like a piece of glass or a drinking glass. It has a diamond-like look, and it's often been used, and still is, but historically for like gazing, scrying, or like, for lack of a better term, future or fortune telling. And that's where like the crystal ball comes from. And so a true crystal ball that you would see today, like in a stone collection, would be made out of crystal quartz, not like a leaded glass. And then it would be for prophetic use to gaze into and hopefully tell the future or answer a question that you do not know the answer to. In the world of crystals, it's a staple, and I know I already said this, but it's a really good beginner, and almost any other collection always has at least a crystal quartz in it, even if it's a little tumbled one or a point, such as the ones included in your bay. It's used as an amplifier, and if anybody checks out books or does a little bit more research on their own, it's just like an amplifier of music. It basically raises or amps up the vibration or property, and sometimes people even argue the color and hue of the other stones and crystals in your collection. So it's kind of like a friend. It's the patter on the back. It's the supporter of all the others. And then a lot of people are interested in and like to program their stones and crystals. And you would want to check out a book or do some research on your own for the in-depth, because I could talk for just an hour specifically on crystal programming. But when you use a programmer, you generally use crystal quartz to program and amplify your other stones and your other properties. So let's say, for example, you were making like a chakra kit or a chakra wand. Those 7 stones would all be different, not including the crystal quartz, but you would put those on a crystal quartz or use a crystal quartz or a tumbled quartz to amplify and kind of cleanse and raise the vibration of your chakra stones. So it's kind of like I said, a pat on the back, a buddy, a supporter. You generally don't have one stone or crystal without at least a piece of crystal quartz for the amplification and the programming, and just to kind of make your other stones the best that they can possibly be. And remember how we talked about ideas and ways you can incorporate your stones and crystals from this year's kit into your just daily routine in life. And we've talked about elixirs, incorporating them into just gardens and windowsills, jewelry making, and we're going to explore more about jewelry making probably next month or the month before after that. And then remember we talked about introducing them into soy wax candles to kind of ump the sellability and the funness and the quality of your handmade candles. And now this month in April for the quartz crystal, we're going to talk about the use of crystal grids. And in your handout, when you pick up your kit, that'll look like this in the little foam envelope, and then your 2 pieces of clear quartz. And thank you to Erin and Claire for taking time, staff at 7th Street Gifts, to bundle all these up and write the stickers out and put them together for you guys. You're also going to have a template of a very simple but sacred geometry crystal grid. And if you want to get online and look, there are a lot of other ones, and I feel certain Lawrenceburg Library has a crystal grid book, or it could get you one on interlibrary loan or a request to purchase. And where it has pages and pages, and you use different forms of sacred geometry and different grid shapes for different reasons. But you'll see that when you learn more about grids, that when you do crystal gridding, you always have at least one piece of clear quartz or crystal quartz in your grid as a programmer or an amplifier. So yours is going to be printed on a piece of paper, and again, you'll be able to find more of these pretty easily. You can also photocopy these and color them in and kind of be creative and free. But it's a really cool ancient form of meditation, relaxation, and kind of calming and coping skills. Sort of like the idea of a Zen garden, where you would kind of draw lines in the sand and calmly place stones to just try to kind of zen out and be in the present moment. A crystal grid is very similar. And then they are so ancient that they even make them in elaborate, high-end wooden, like laser and wood-burned grids that you can buy. And then we even have some at the shop that are really big. And I've seen other ones where people have even like drawn them on chalk, like on big areas in a common place on a sidewalk or in the sand on a beach. So you can be really creative with your gridding, but it can be as simple as a piece of paper printed off or even freehand drawn or traced, as elaborate as a wooden little laser cut grid to one drawn with a stick in the sand or the dirt. And the idea is you lay other stones and crystals. So this is a really good way to incorporate your previous collections, your other stones from the, let's see, we've got garnet, amethyst, and aquamarine. These would be incredible stones to grid with. And then you would use your crystal quartz in the center or a cross point. You'll see where the little intersections, they put geometric shapes to show you where you place your stones for gridding. And crystal grids, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but it bears repeating. They use sacred geometry that's ancient. It's been around as long as people have existed. These are designs and charts that have been seen in Egyptian tombs and on cave walls and all the way up into modern day world, where you can check out a book from the library. And these sacred geometry are printed and placed as grids, and that's where the intersections are put for you with the shapes. And they're a chart for laying the stones. And again, you generally lay and place your stones where the other geometric shapes are, where they're the cross points. However, I'd like to say there's really no wrong way to use a crystal grid. As long as you're enjoying it and you're using it as a tool for relaxation and meditation, and just to kind of enjoy your stones and crystals and make an activity out of it, and then you can leave it nicely laid out and foster and manifest an intention with it. I would not criticize anybody who decided that for some reason they felt like their crystals and stones needed to be within the circles. I feel like there's a lot of free will and personal freedom in the gridding. But the idea behind it is to use the stones and the crystals as an ancient form of meditation and reflection and Zen and present. And then it is a really pretty way to incorporate your crystals and stones collection in kind of an intentional way and pattern, and make it more enjoyable and kind of give them a sense of purpose if you're a person who likes to use the things that are around you for a specific reason. So a little bit shorter this month because there's a lot of follow-up you can do on your own. Your handout's pretty detailed, and I think most of us are pretty familiar with crystal quartz. And so it's kind of a really good one to incorporate in now on month 4. And then the last 8 months we'll be able to program and charge and amplify and talk about its use for jewelry cleansing too, when you introduce other stones and crystals for jewelry making. So in conclusion, crystal quartz is the quartz that we use for the month of April. It's a very common and easy to find mineral all over the world. Abundant would be a better word for it. So it's affordable, and it comes in many shapes, points, masses, grains, prisms, and even threaded. Your take home has a tumbled and polished crystal quartz from a mass, and a second that's a naturally formed crystal point. And then you also have a printed template for a beginner's crystal grid here. And yours is going to be translucent, diamond-like, and you'll be able to look through it and see all the way through it like a piece of glass. And metaphysical purposes are for gazing and uses a prophetic to look into the future and try to answer questions. And in the world of stone and crystal making, or collecting I should say, it's a staple to any collection because it's used as an amplifier and a programmer for all other stones and crystals. And not to mention, it's just simply lovely. So when you get yours, take time to enjoy them all. I bet you 3 or 4 in there have a nice pretty rainbow in it. That's always a treat. And then next month is for May, and that is an emerald. And I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to source either raw or tumbled emeralds, like a grade B, because obviously they're a higher end, more expensive gemstone for our kits. I'm in the process of hammering it out and getting everything we need. If for some reason the emeralds fall through because of price or shipping, because they come from Madagascar and they're kind of hard to get right now, we're going to do bloodstone as a substitute. But the idea is May will be emerald, and I'll know by the end of the week, Denise, what we'll put on the poster. So we're going to celebrate May with either emerald, hopefully, or bloodstone, and both are representative of that month. And in the meantime, come in and get your grid, your handout, and there's a book recommendation for more gridding that I basically used as a reference for this talk, if you wanted to look it up and check some things out, and enjoy your crystal quartz. And tell me what you think about the gridding. And then next month, maybe we'll start to incorporate the idea of jewelry or cage making in. We'll have to think on it. But until then, enjoy the month of April and your Crystal Quartz. 7th Street Gifts. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a Weebly request off of the website. And thanks again for checking out your kit and expressing interest.